She looked like she belonged in a garage, not a battlefield. Faded jeans, work boots, calloused hands from wrench work. But when Elena Rodriguez picked up that unfamiliar rifle and made an impossible shot at 4,200 m, everyone realized they'd been looking at this small mountain town girl all wrong. Elena's weathered pickup truck kicked up dust as she turned off Highway 70 toward Iron Ridge Shooting Complex. December air carried winter's bite, and the Sangre de Cristo Mountains stood like silent sentinels against a pewter sky. She made this drive every Wednesday for 8 months, always arriving early to avoid weekend warriors who treated the range like their personal playground. At 26, Elena Rodriguez looked older than her years. Dark circles under brown eyes that had seen too much. Black hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. Lean build from hard work rather than gym memberships. The shooting range had become her therapy, recommended by Dr. Marcus Webb during their sessions. Pete Garrison emerged from the range office, gray beard streaked with white, Desert Storm veteran ball cap pulled low. He'd run Iron Ridge for 18 years. "Morning, Elena," he called out. "Cold enough for you?" "Just right," she replied, shouldering her rifle case. Her grandfather Rodriguez's words echoed in memory. A rifle is not just a tool, little one. Its responsibility made manifest. For college-aged men, we're unloading expensive gear from a new SUV. Brett Harrison stood at the center, blonde hair perfectly styled, wearing fresh camouflage. "I'm telling you, Tyler, it's all about the equipment," he was saying to Tyler Brooks, a nervous young man with thick glasses. "My father's new Barrett M82 could put down an elk at 900 yards easy." Connor Walsh nodded enthusiastically while struggling with a heavy rifle case. "Brett's been shooting since he was 10. His family owns half the hunting lodges in Jefferson County." "Excuse me, miss," Brett called to Elena with condescending politeness. "Are you here for the beginner safety course?" For college-aged men, we're unloading expensive gear from a new SUV. Brett Harrison stood at the center, blonde hair perfectly styled, wearing fresh camouflage. "I'm telling you, Tyler, it's all about the equipment," he was saying to Tyler Brooks, a nervous young man with thick glasses. "My father's new Barrett M82 could put down an elk at 900 yards easy." Connor Walsh nodded enthusiastically while struggling with a heavy rifle case. "Brett's been shooting since he was 10. His family owns half the hunting lodges in Jefferson County." "Excuse me, miss," Brett called to Elena with condescending politeness. "Are you here for the beginner safety course? My buddy Tyler might need company in the remedial class." Elena met his gaze with steady eyes that had stared down insurgent fighters. "I'll manage," she said quietly. Inside, Linda Garrison smiled from behind the counter. "Your usual lane, honey." Elena signed in and paid for lane 20, the farthest from the college students. "Range is hot," Pete announced over the loudspeaker. "Maximum distance today is 1,200 yards due to atmospheric conditions." Brett scoffed loudly. 1,200 yards. "My grandfather could make shots longer than that with iron sights." For the next hour, Elena worked through her practice routine with mechanical precision. Each shot maintained muscle memory and breathing control that had kept her alive overseas, while providing meditative focus that quieted mental chaos. The college students made more noise and achieved less success. Brett's boasts about equipment weren't translating into accurate shots, and his frustration grew with each miss. "This scope must be off," Brett complained after his 6th miss at 700 yards. "There's no way I'm shooting that poorly." Marcus Webb arrived at noon, carrying his M1 Garand from Army days. At 63, he moved with careful precision. Webb nodded to Elena, noting her relaxed posture and methodical approach. "How are you feeling today?" he asked during a break. "Better," Elena replied. By afternoon, Brett's shooting had grown worse as frustration mounted. He tried 3 different rifles, convinced equipment malfunction explained his poor performance. Tyler was actually outperforming his boastful friend. "I don't understand this," Brett said loudly. "I've been doing this for years. These ranges must have problems with their setup." Pete had enough. "Son, You're jerking the trigger and holding your breath too long. Equipment can't fix technique. Brett's face flushed. I know how to shoot. Maybe this place isn't set up for serious marksmen. Is that so? Pete replied with an edge. Maybe you'd like to demonstrate this serious marksmanship. What followed was costly equipment producing mediocre results. Brett managed 400-yard targets with reasonable consistency, but anything beyond revealed his limitations. Other shooters gathered to watch, drawn by his boasts. The audience made Brett more nervous, and his shots grew erratic under pressure. By late afternoon, Pete's patience was gone. He'd watched 15 shooters attempt various distances with mixed results, but Brett's complaints had created frustration affecting everyone. Any snipers here? Pete called out in exasperation because apparently nobody else can hit the broadside of a barn today. From her corner at lane 20, Elena Rodriguez set down her coffee and stood up. Elena's movement caught everyone's attention. Brett turned, expecting another weekend enthusiast about to embarrass themselves. Instead, he watched a slender woman in faded jeans approach with purposeful stride. "I'll give it a try," Elena said simply. Brett's eyebrows shot up. "You're joking, right, lady? I've been shooting competitively since middle school, and even I'm having trouble today." "I mean, no offense," Brett continued patronizingly, "but there's wind shear at distance, atmosphere pressure variations, parallax issues. Maybe you should stick to closer targets until you've got more experience." Elena didn't respond. She walked to the equipment rack and selected a standard Remington 700 in 308 Winchester. "That's a decent rifle," Dr. Webb observed, "but it's not zeroed for you. Could throw off accuracy significantly." "I'll adjust," Elena replied, checking balance and length of pull. Pete moved to the control station. "What distance you thinking?" "For 1,200 meters," Elena said without hesitation. Complete silence. Even Brett stopped fidgeting. "For 1,200, Connor squeaked. "That's over 2.6 miles. Actually," Dr. Webb corrected, studying Elena with new interest. Brett laughed uncertainly. "This is ridiculous. Nobody makes shots at 4,200 meters without specialized equipment, perfect conditions, and years of training." Pete looked uncertain. "Elena, I've got targets to 1,800 meters maximum. Winds gusting to 15 miles per hour. Visibility isn't ideal." "Can you set something up at 4,200? Elena asked calmly. "Just something visible." Pete retrieved an orange safety cone. "There's a ridge at about 4,200 meters. I could drive out and place this, but spotting impact would be nearly impossible." "I'll spot for her," Dr. Webb volunteered, producing a high-power spotting scope. Brett shook his head. "What's your background? Where did you learn to shoot?" Elena's expression flickered with something like pain. "Here and there," she said quietly. Word spread quickly. Within 45 minutes, 36 people had gathered, including Luis Ramirez from her grandmother's ranch. Luis had served in Iraq and recognized something in Elena's demeanor. The calm focus of someone tested under fire. "You sure about this, Miss Elena?" Luis asked quietly. "A lot of folks watching." "I'm sure," Elena replied, making minute-scope adjustments. Brett appointed himself commentator. "See, extreme long-range shooting isn't just about aim. You've got bullet drop, wind drift, Coriolis effect, temperature variations. Coriolis effect is negligible at this range," Elena said without looking up. "Bullet drop will be approximately 47 feet. Wind drift depends on reading environmental conditions in real time." Brett's mouth fell open at her technical accuracy. Webb set up his spotting scope as Pete confirmed target placement. Orange cone on ridge line, 4,250 meters by GPS. Elena took position, adjusting the bipod. Her breathing slowed to the controlled rhythm learned at Fort Benning. Through the scope, the distant ridge was a hazy line. The cone appeared as a tiny orange. "Winds shifting," Dr. Webb reported, 10 to 12 miles per hour northwest. "Not consistent, getting thermals off that south slope." Elena nodded, reading conditions that would affect her bullet's 3.2-second flight. She chambered a 308 round, found the trigger, applied pressure to remove slack. "This is impossible," Brett muttered with less certainty. Elena watched wind patterns and vegetation between her position and target. Years of combat taught her to read signs casual shooters missed. She took a breath, released half, held, heartbeat slowed, crosshairs steadied slightly left and above the cone, compensating for drift and drop. The trigger broke cleanly. Rifle bucked against her shoulder. Muzzle blast echoed across the range, followed by silence as people held their breath. Webb watched through a scope. 2 seconds felt like eternity. "I see dust," Webb said suddenly. Impact. Jesus Christ, she hit it. The cone moved. She actually hit the damn thing. Silence erupted into chaos. Brett's face went pale. Tyler stood agape while Connor fumbled his phone. "Let me see that scope," Brett demanded, reaching with shaking hands. Webb blocked access. "Give her a moment," he continued observing. Cones definitely hit, tilted 40 degrees right. Elena remained motionless, processing the shot sequence. Everything had felt correct. Pete's radio crackled from the target area. "Well, I'll be damned." Dead center hit. Took a chunk out and knocked it sideways. "Got the fragment right here." The crowd exploded, but Elena simply worked the bolt, caught the ejected case, examined it briefly, then began making the rifle safe. "Where did you learn to shoot like that?" "Various places," Elena replied, avoiding eyes as she removed the magazine. Brett approached, arrogance replaced by curiosity. "That was incredible. What kind of military training did you have?" The question hung like smoke. Elena's hands stilled briefly. A pause. Dr. Webb noticed. "I should head home," Elena said, cleaning the rifle. "Chores don't wait." Pete returned with the damaged cone. "Young lady, I've run this range 18 years. Elena, we should talk soon. That level of skill comes with costs that sometimes need professional attention." She met his eyes briefly. He saw something confirming his suspicions. "Maybe," Elena replied, then moved past him. Brett wasn't finished. "Wait, please. I was wrong about your abilities, but what you did is textbook impossible. You have to understand that." Elena paused at the door. Something in Brett's genuine humility made her turn back. "Nothing's impossible if you understand the variables," she said simply. "Wind, temperature, humidity, pressure, target movement, ammunition, rifle characteristics, shooter stability. Account for enough variables accurately, and the bullet goes where you aim." "But how do you account for variables you can't measure?" Tyler asked with genuine curiosity. Elena's expression softened slightly. "You learn to read signs. Vegetation movement, dust patterns, heat shimmer, bird flight paths, shadow patterns. Everything tells a story if you know how to listen." Webb nodded. Environmental awareness at that level is specialized military training. The comment drew veteran approval, but attracted attention from newcomer Clint Rhodes, Donovan Westfield's ranch foreman. Rhodes was compact, wiry, with calculating eyes. "Quite a show," Rhodes said neutrally. "Word travels fast when someone makes news like this." Luis positioned himself between Rhodes and Elena. The men had history over water rights disputes. "Just target practice," Luis said evenly. "Nothing newsworthy." Rhodes smiled without warmth. Military-level marksmanship from unexpected sources makes interesting conversation, especially from people with specialized backgrounds. As Elena drove toward her grandmother's ranch, familiar responsibility weight settled across her shoulders. Tomorrow she'd decide whether Elena Rodriguez, the mechanic, could continue existing or whether Shadow would emerge to protect what mattered most. Because some people are meant to be weapons, and the only choice is who gets to aim.